My name's Matt, welcome back to Xenomorph Universe. It has been a long time since I've done one of these videos, but anyway, let's get on with it. So, this is a video about Burke, so Carter J. Burke, as it comes out in the film, works for Weyland-Yutani, and he's a liaison between Weyland-Yutani, the company that we assume that Ripley worked for originally. We first come across him, and he's kind of like a narrator for the first part of the film. Actually, quite a lot of the film, actually. He starts with telling Ripley how long, where she is, so Gateway Station, how long she's been in deep sleep for, how things have changed, so on. And it's where we get a lot of our information, so he's quite pivotal to the story. I have read that he wasn't actually in the original draft, but regardless, that doesn't matter. In this channel, I like to focus on what I'd like to call the Ripley saga, so the first 3 films, and forget the rest. I can muse now and then, but at the end of the day, my real focus is the first 3 films. We then see him as a liaison between Ripley and the Colonial Marines, or in other words, he goes to go and see Ripley to try and get her on board, and then, accompanied by the United States Colonial Marines. Just, I think, to give it some gravity. She then later contacts him, so he gives her his card, and that's how she basically says, "I'm going to, come along." He is just like Ripley in this sense on the actual mission to LV-426, because he's a civilian, just like she is. So he's a liaison or a representative, and she is just a civilian advisor. And all the way through the film, he adds bits, like he talks about the colonists that have the trackers and how to find them. He talks about little bits and pieces, acid for blood, stuff like that. So he's really quite useful in the film, and some would argue was actually really the antagonist, or one of the antagonists, throughout the entire film. But it then becomes clear, or it is suggested kind of in the film, that he is working on company orders, and that's really what I want to talk about in this. Ripley makes the assumption straight away, after the whole facehugger scenario, she makes the assumption that he is working for the company and he's trying to fuck everyone over. She then checks the company logs, and she basically corners him and says, "Look, I checked the logs. You sent them out there." This is what got me thinking of, is Burke actually acting alone in all of this? And the reason why I started to think that is because she corners him and she questions him, and she says to him, "I've checked the logs. You sent them there without giving them any warning." And then immediately his initial response, without even thinking about it, was, "Look, if I did that, everyone gets involved and nobody gets anything." Which is a strange line. It follows, you get that. He could be talking on behalf of the company. But then he talks about, how can they impound something if they don't know about it, so on and so forth. And then he says, if we're smart about this, we can both come out of this basically rich. And that made me think that maybe Burke is acting completely on his own. He's been assigned this whole Ripley thing. No one knows what she's going to say. And, she come out with this wild, crazy story. And loads of people come out with wild, crazy stories. Yes, forensic tests have got to be done on the escape pod, so on and so forth. And, he sends... Because it seems weird to send... If they knew about this alien species being so important and so on, then why send a couple of colonists? They could accidentally kill. There could be only 5 of them that are viable, or 1 of them viable, and they could accidentally kill this. You know what I mean? So, from his point of view, or the company's point of view, it seems very unlikely that they'd go down that avenue. They'd just send a team out there to go and recover it, a scientific team to go and recover it. So for me, it seems very much like exactly how he says. It sounds like a wild, crazy story. The only reason why I'm talking to you now about it is because, or the only reason why we're here is because the colony went down. It's a lot of people. We're invested in it. The atmosphere processor costs a lot of money. That's why I'm here, so on and so forth. And I get this feeling that Burke is actually acting alone. Because if he was on company money, he wouldn't be making money out of anything. He'd get a pat on the back, he might get a promotion. But he said, we can walk away from this rich. I do think he's working alone. I do think that after, thinking about it and watching the film a couple more times, I do get this feeling that Burke is he's just winging it. You know what I mean? Which takes away this ever-present idea that I see a lot of people say in the comments and stuff, or when people do review this film full stop, that Burke is working for the company and he's just a bad guy. I'm not saying he's not a bad guy, I'm just saying it's an assumption that from the way I look at it, there's actually more evidence that he's not working for the company. Like I say, that he's just winging it. Surely he'd be like, oh yeah, this is terrible, let's get back on the ship and get back. Why grab a last specimen? The place isn't going anywhere. Let's... I know they said nuke it from orbit and so on, and it's all going to blow up, but we have no real idea how far the derelict, or the bone ship, or whatever you want to call it, the jockey ship. You have no idea how far that is away. Now, I know people are going to say extended universe material, blah blah blah. I'm kind of ignoring that because there's loads of stuff that was in the extended universe that doesn't make any sense. But yeah, just to me, it's just the idea that, is Burke really the front for the company, or is he just some guy who's winging it trying to get rich? Again, as usual, it's just a talking point. I love these films, and there's a lot of people that do. Have at it in the comments, and I know people are going to start spitting out stuff like, yes, but in this book and that book, just the films. Because with books, if you read the Alien book, the Aliens book, and the Alien 3 book, there are things that are in the novelisation that have been chucked out for the films. You know what I mean? Most people, nearly everyone, isn't here because they read the books and thought they were fantastic. The films came first. The novelisations, a lot of the time, are done after the fact. That's why it's a novelisation of a film instead of the other way around. Hope that makes sense, and I'll see you in the next one.